All right. Hello, everyone. My buddy Paul Melia on our theme song. Thank you, Paul, as always. And welcome back, everyone, to your Wednesday night webinar. I was gone for 2 weeks. Apologies to everyone. Hopefully you weren't in withdrawal. Did a little traveling and was doing some filming of things. There'll be some exciting stuff to show you coming out soon. Looking forward to that, to give you some news, but tidbits. We were out in Hollywood doing some cool stuff, so it'll be showing up. And good to be back with everyone. I know John Grayson is typically here with us at today, but with the holiday and things moving around and everything, John had some other commitments, so understood, and we will get him back on again probably at the end of July or the beginning of August, and we will start our 4-week rotation once again. This month's a little bit weird with the holiday, and then also the International OCD Foundation Conference coming up at the end of the month as well, too, for everyone. So if you're interested in that, check out the International OCD Foundation website, and you can get all the details there for the conference. All right. Well, we got some questions, and a few even came in on email as well, too. Some people who couldn't make it in the time zone time or said that they try to put them in and they get deleted because they're too early. So I'll start with that one first. Usually ERP considers things that are unlikely, although possible with a low probability. With sleep OCD, it's quite possible you might literally get no sleep. How would you construct ERP exercises for this? Well, you might get no sleep, and here's the thing. What if that were the case? What would happen if you didn't get some sleep? Well, you'd be tired. Okay, so you'd be tired the next day, and then what would happen the next night? You'd probably fall asleep. And if you didn't get sleep that night, you'd be even more tired the next day, and you'd probably get some sleep the next night. So a big piece of this is that the fear of not falling asleep is something that can keep people awake, because then they're doing all sorts of things. Some people will go to the bathroom constantly because they think, I can't go to sleep if I have to pee. Or what if I didn't empty my bladder enough and I have to wake up in the middle of the night and go pee? And then, oh my, that would be terrible, because then I would be awake, and that would be awful, and I don't want to be awake. And so I'm going to just stay up all night trying to make sure that I get all the urine out of me. And then once I get all the urine out of me, then I can go ahead and go to bed. And now it's 6 a.m. and oh shoot, I got to start getting ready for work because it's already 6 a.m. So the very thing that you do becomes the thing that causes the problem in this situation. So if you're doing ERP and you're maybe going to sleep or going to bed and hoping not to sleep and wishing to wake up and pee, are you really going to do anything different than what you're doing already? Well, you might not sleep. Well, you're already not doing that with the compulsions that you're doing. So at least doing it the way of doing ERP, you have the opportunity to potentially sleep, but I don't see that opportunity happening with compulsions where you're constantly going up and checking and doing things. So as weird as it sounds, the act of doing the ERP might actually lead you to sleep better than the compulsions would. With planning OCD, I don't know. Well, we'll see. Let's see what this is. Where there are obsessions regarding having everything planned out for the day, and then going over everything where there's, whenever there's a slight change. Okay. How would you form exposures for this? One of the things that I like to do for people who want to have everything planned out is throw a couple of coin flips in the day. So you might do this or you might do that. And you won't know what's going to happen at 10 o'clock until you flip a coin. And if you flip a coin, then you do this thing. And then you might even have that written out the first time. And then 2 hours later, you flip another coin and you might have that written out. You might have all these permutations written out at first, some things. But then you could go to, well, I'll write out 5 of the 6 permutations. I might get one of the coin flips that is the one that I didn't write out, and I'm going to have to deal with it. And then the next day, 4 of the 6, and the next day, 3 of the 6, and the next day, 2 of the 6. And until you have nothing planned out other than that first 2 hours, and then the first hour and a half, and then the first hour, and then the first half hour, and then the first 15 minutes, and then the first 5, and getting less and less things planned out over time, so that you allow yourselves to start learning. Okay, I can function without having the entire day planned. I have very few plans tomorrow. I have some ideas about what I'd like to do. It is a holiday here in the U.S., and I'm just going to kind of go with it, and I'm going to see what happens. And so I would contend, if it's not a work day, try that out first too. Take a weekend with nothing planned and just see what happens and how you do. Hiker says, can overindulging on food or fun activities be a compulsion? I think they're probably more of a distraction, honestly, than they are a compulsion. There are 5 safety behaviors that we typically work with. Compulsions are a safety behavior. So is drugs or alcohol potentially, and so is distraction, and so is reassurance seeking, and also avoidance. So what I'm thinking is that these are probably distractions. You're probably doing these things and focusing on these things and distracting from things that are uncomfortable, and you're trying to fill the day with things that are comfortable. Of course, you might say, is there anything wrong with that? And the answer is, well, yeah, potentially, if that's all that you're doing all the time is doing things just to be comfortable, and you're not allowing yourself to learn that you can handle being uncomfortable. So the goal really in many of the ERP points of view is, how do we help people learn that they can handle being uncomfortable, right? And that's what we want people to do, is to purposely do things that are uncomfortable and really allow themselves to learn that they can handle that. Once you learn that you can handle being uncomfortable, well, then you're going to be more comfortable, right? Because you're not going to be so afraid of being uncomfortable. So I would give that a try. Could you please talk about OCD and fear of missing out or fear of regret? Well, FOMO, talked a lot about this lately. This has been coming up more and more. It's interesting. The concept here in FOMO, this idea that what if I miss out on something? I will tell you, you are missing out on things right now, because there are things going on in Ireland and Paris and Hungary and Africa as an entire continent. If you're living here in the U.S., you're missing out on all of those things. So if you really want to think about it, of all the things going on in the world right now, and you are maybe sitting on your couch watching me do this, you are missing out on 10 to the probably 5 millionth power of all of the things that are happening in the world right now. And why aren't you disappointed about that, right? Why have you decided the only thing to be disappointed about missing out on would be something that a select group of people that I happen to know might be doing, right? Because you're missing out on billions and billions of things happening right now, from underwater or underground caves with having thermal reactivity going on in them, to individual sand blowing on a beach, to snowflakes blowing off the top of a mountain, to a fish running up a river right now being chased by a bear. All of those things are things you are missing out on right now. And I'm wondering, Hiker, why you're not regretting those. Because, as I like to say to everybody with OCD, if you're going to do it all the way, right? I mean, just regret missing out on everything if you're going to really regret it. Why do you only regret missing out on this tiny little thing, like this one thing that a couple of people that I know are doing, instead of you're actually missing out on the entire world outside of where you are right now? I mean, beyond anywhere that you can see or hear, there are literally trillions of things happening. Every bug that is flying in the air, every animal that is walking or sleeping, every fire that is burning, every storm that is raging. Lightning strikes the earth at least once per second. So every lightning strike that is going on, you are missing out on every one of those things. And you've not cared about it, I bet, until right now. And there's a part of you that will say, well, I can't really focus on all those things. You're right. So then why is it important to really focus on any of it that you're missing out on whatsoever? So a reminder, tonight's brought to you by NoCD. NoCD, an online platform for the treatment of obsessive compulsive disorder. Check us out at nocd.com or treatmyocd.com. And if you're looking for help, we work in Canada and the US and Australia and the UK as well. We would be happy to help you deal with any OCD or related things like BFRBs, things like hair pulling or skin picking. And then we work with tics and hoarding and related conditions too. We help with trauma. We help with anxiety, depression. So check us out at nocd.com. Mustang Sally says, I rode a rental bike yesterday. When you took it, you were standing near dumpsters and you were too lazy to clean it with wet wipes before riding it. Well, then I would have been lazy too, because I sure would not have wiped it down with wet wipes as well. Was I too negligent and lazy, or should I think of it as ERP? How to tell the difference? Well, I love to think of it as ERP. If you normally would have wanted to clean it, and that's what your OCD would have told you to do, and you did the opposite, congratulations, you were doing ERP. And that's exactly what we want. Now, OCD will send a message to you that says, you are lazy, Mustang Sally. And look, it would have just taken a few minutes, get a couple of wet wipes out, wipe down the bike, get the germs off from the dumpster that are probably on there. And, the dumpster was probably filled with vomit and dog poop and all sorts of things. And now you lazily just got on that bike and rode it. And now it's on your clothes, and you brought them to other places, and you went places, and you sat down, and now you've spread that dumpster everywhere. And now the entire world within 7 days will be contaminated by that dumpster. And isn't that interesting? I love the exponential aspect of this. I do this all the time with people on a whiteboard. Someone will say, well, I can't touch that doorknob because it's contaminated. I'll say, all right, let's just say that 10 people today touch that doorknob. And then they go to their respective rooms or other buildings and they touch 10 things there. And then 10 people touch the 10 things that were touched by those 10 people. And you will notice that by probably next week, some point, everything in the world has been touched by that doorbell. Maybe other than, the North or South Pole. But otherwise, I'm going to contend that the vast majority of the earth has now carried by a exponential way that contamination out and about, right? Now, isn't it interesting in OCD, if you don't see it, it doesn't matter. It doesn't really exist. But if you see it happen and it's there, then you have to do something about it, right? So that's what I've always been fascinated about in OCD. It's almost like, I don't see it, so I'll go with the fact that it might not have happened, and that's okay. But since I saw you touch it, and I know that you touched that thing, and now I know that thing's contaminated. Boy, no, well, that makes it all the different, right? Versus anybody else who just walks over there who didn't see it, or who even did and just doesn't care and lives their life, right? Are you living your life? Are you living the life that OCD wants you to live? That's the thing that I really want you to think about. What is the life that you're living? The life that you want to live, or the life that OCD wants you to live? Loam says, hi, you have sexual orientation OCD. You suffer why false attraction, sorry, it must be a language issue, and false attraction and real attraction. Well, OCD is going to be confusing, right? So what is false attraction versus what is real attraction? There's no way I can answer that for you. I'm just going to be honest. There's absolutely no way for me to answer that question for you. That OCD will say, oh, well, thank you, wise and holy Dr. McGrath, for having finally convinced me that now I know the difference between real and false memory or attraction or feeling or something of that way. When you ask why in an OCD question, it's a very simple answer, because that's what OCD does. It's confusing, right? It's doubt, it's uncertainty. And Loam, what you're doing is trying to find reassurance here. Like, you're wanting to know, can you just promise me or tell me exactly what is a real feeling versus what is a false feeling? Well, no, I cannot. just in the same way that if I put you at an actual ledge and you look down, or I put a VR on you and it's a ledge and you look down, you're still going to feel the same thing. Is one of them real and one of them false? Well, the stimuli for one might be real and the other one might be contrived, but the feeling that you have is the same, right? So you're trying to decide that, oh, there must be a way to tell that there's a false feeling versus a real feeling. No, feelings are feelings. So stop trying to separate out this notion that there's a false feeling or a real feeling. You're just having a feeling, and you just allow yourself to learn that you can live with having a feeling, whatever that feeling is. It's a feeling. You can handle it. That's what we want. Marie says, I have OCD and I've obsessed over career education path for the last 7 or so years. It's a daily, weekly habit of researching, committing, quitting, repeat. It's debilitating. How can I treat this? Allow yourself, Marie, to pick something and stick with it, even if it is uncomfortable. And you may say, oh, but what if it's wrong? Well, after you've completed something, only then will you be able to tell if that's the case. You will not know that until something is done. And if you keep doing what you're doing, you will never complete anything. And therefore, you will never allow yourself the chance to even see if something might be satisfying, because all you've done is constantly question and doubt and sought the grass greener on the other side experience. And what I want you to do is just, even if you flip a coin, I don't care. Take one of the things that you've been interested, go with it, and know that going into that means you are going to doubt it. You are going to have uncertainty about it. Okay, there you go, right? I would contend that almost anybody in any kind of program at times has doubts about it. I had doubts about graduate school when I was in it at times. Was this really the right thing to do? Is this really all the gruelingness of this that I have to do? Is this really what I want to do for 12 years of college that I did? And I ultimately did it. But boy, there were days I was thinking, why am I doing this? What is going on? If every time that I had a doubt or uncertainty, I would still be in school today, because I would have gone through probably cooking school next, and then I would have done photography next, and then I would have done who knows what after that. And I'm sure I would have had doubts all on the way on all of those things. And therefore, I would still be not here doing this. I would still be in school, searching through catalogs, researching things, wondering, what is my passion? What is my real thing? What am I supposed to do? What am I called for? Right. Same kind of thing in relationship OCD, right? Who's my soulmate or something like that? We get these notions in our head that there's this one thing for us, and that if we can't find it, or we don't have 100% assurance on that one thing for us, then we'll go back to an earlier question. We got FOMO. We're missing out on something like that. I think there's multiple things for us. I think there's multiple people for us. And I think there's multiple ways for us to be happy. OCD says, no, there's only one. And you must know what it is before you go do it, even though you can't ever know what the end is going to be until you actually do it. And OCD says that's not acceptable, though. So you do what OCD wants and you'll spend the rest of your life doing what you're doing, or you stick with something all the way through and you see what it's like when you get to the end. Okay. Carl says, OCD tells me now for almost every compulsion, didn't you just write a threatening email to a stranger about this compulsion and consequence? Now you have to do it to be 100% sure. I can't trust myself. Well, Carl, I'm wondering what you have to trust. I mean, Carl, I'll say this. Didn't I just leave this webinar and take a bottle of alcohol outside and put a rag in it and light it on fire and throw it at my neighbor's house and set it on fire? And then didn't I go into the middle of the street and poop into a paper bag and then light it on fire and put in front of another neighbor's house and rung the doorbell, and they came out and saw a flaming bag on their porch and they stomped on it and they got flaming poop on their shoe? And didn't I then laugh at them because they had flaming poop on their shoe? And then didn't I shoot a couple of geese that were flying over my house? And then didn't I sneak back down here and continue this webinar without anybody really noticing? Carl, didn't I do that? What do I need, Carl, to be 100% sure? What do I need to trust myself? You might even say, well, you could go outside and see if your neighbor Dave's house is on fire. But you know what, Carl, I know people who stare at things for hours and hours and hours looking to see if there might be an invisible fire on it as well. And I've treated people for that, right? And I'll know people who will then walk around for blocks looking for the dead carcasses of the geese that I might have shot, right? So, Carl, what is the 100% sure that you are searching for? Because I don't know what that is. And I don't know any therapist who will be able to give you that as well, too. And I would ask for anybody who's on here, have any of you achieved this nirvana 100% absolutely sure experience that you've been looking for, that OCD has wanted? If you have, please write in the comments how you did it. And then please email me afterward. I'd like to write a book with you, because we will finally broken the code of OCD. We will have finally figured out how to get 100% absolute certainty about everything in our entire lives, and know for sure the way that everything is going to go and have no doubts about anything whatsoever. So, Carl, can you do that for me? Can you find somebody who has achieved 100%? If you do, let me know. That would be great. Hi, Doc. Dropping an earlier question. I've been diagnosed with a form of sexual orientation, OCD trans, for years, but whenever I get back into the cycle, I doubt the diagnosis so strongly. I feel like I'm lying to myself. Any advice? Well, go ahead and lie to yourself, right? I mean, why is that a problem, right? I lie to myself all the time. I tell myself, wow, your hair looks great today, when it doesn't, right? Or, oh, your beard's fine. No, I've just been too lazy to shave. I will try to do that tonight. There's little lies that I tell myself every day. Am I a horrible, bad, awful person for doing this, or anything like that? I mean, and that's just tiny little stuff that I have to deal with. In this case, you talk about you're lying to yourself and a cycle of doubt. What that says to me is what you want, that we were just talking about, is you want to figure a way to a 100% insurance. Well, I can't give that to you, and I don't know anybody who could. And again, I'm asking anyone in the comment to please write down if you have ever achieved 100% assurance and your OCD said, thanks, we're good, I'm out of here. Please write that in the comment, and then please reach out to me. I would like to write a book with you. I would like to publish it. We will become just millionaires, because we will have cracked the code and we will have come up with the absolute 100% no doubt kind of answer. I'm seeing a theme tonight, which is all of you would like to have a 100% certainty. Guess what? None of you are ever going to have, nor will I ever have as well too, 100% certainty. Because guess what? If I don't want to say this. Many of you know my wife died of cancer. Should I have not gotten married? I didn't have 100% certainty that she would be healthy. I took the chance. We took vows that said, in sickness and in health, till death do we part. We got the sickness. We didn't get the health. Maybe I should have doubted more. Maybe I should have never gotten married. Then I wouldn't have had to go through all those years of caregiving. Then I wouldn't have to go through watching all the pain that she went through with the cancer. Then I wouldn't have had to deal with losing a spouse and becoming a widow. All because of a stupid decision I made to get married, because I got married without 100% assurance that she was purely and 100% healthy. Dumb me. How could I have done such a thing? Well, I guess that guarantees I will never get married again, because there will be no way that anyone will ever have a guarantee that they are 100% healthy or will remain 100% healthy until I die. But what if nobody then wants to marry me too? Because what if they want a guarantee of me being 100% healthy too? And if I were 100% healthy and they were 100% healthy, would that mean that we would live forever? Because there would be nothing that would ever harm either of us, because we are, of course, 100% healthy. And how could anything happen to anybody who's 100% healthy? Oh, wait, we could still be hit by cars. And even though we're 100% healthy, we could still be run over by a car. So I still don't have that guarantee. So, right, never get married ever again, because it isn't just sickness and health. It's also death do you part. And I don't, who wants to go through somebody dying, right? That sounds terrible. It was awful. And so I don't want to do that again. So I'm just going to be single for the rest of my life. And that way I'll never have to deal with any doubts about anybody who I'm ever with ever again, because it will only be me. Sound like a good way to live? You guys tell me if you think that that's a wise choice. Because if I followed the advice of OCD, that's what I would do. So do you all? I'd like to see a vote in the comments there. If you all agree, yes, no one should ever get married ever again, No one should ever be with anyone ever again because it's just too tough to lose someone, and we can't have the guarantee that they're okay. Brack 101 for some sexual arousal with OCD says, is lubrication mean arousal? I've tested myself through images and have a bit of lubrication. It's very disturbing and scary. It's very often the thing that you don't want to have happen happens, right? So if I started talking to everybody about lice and about how lice live in your hair and they like to kind of dig in around the roots, and they like to have their little baby lice that like to crawl around and play football and soccer on your head, and then crawl down your arms and into your armpits. And then if you got a hairy chest, they'll kind of go there, and then they'll go into your pubic area, and then your butt crack, and even down to the hairs on your toes, and they'll just kind of dig around and live and bite. And is anyone itching right now? Is anyone feeling the urge to scratch themselves? Right? Look how suggestible we are. So the moment I hope that I don't feel anything, be it an erection or a lubrication or an itch or something like that, I'm going to have it. That's the way our brains and our bodies work. Sanj says, I have a question about my identity. It is false like it has been all my life. Why can't I feel myself, my life, the world like everyone feels theirs? How do you know how everyone feels theirs? How do you know that you're not feeling it the same way? Even if they describe the way that they're feeling it, maybe you do feel that way, but you doubt that you feel that way because that's what OCD would do. So you actually don't have a guarantee that you don't feel life the same way that everybody else. I just want to start there first. You say you've gotten glimpses here and there. You were trying relentlessly for a month to sustain a high level of consciousness to avoid going into OCD dreamland, but it kind of crashed, being unnatural. You went again sleepwalking and dead end. Does CBT and disputing irrational thinking provide a realistic worldview? Hence, every therapist must give teaching on how to relate to situations appropriately to bring baseline calmness and peace. I don't teach people how to do things appropriately because I don't know what appropriate is for anybody else. I don't even know that I necessarily know what it is for myself half the time, but I sure don't know what it is for everybody else. What I try to do is help people recognize that these doubts and these insecurities that OCD bring people don't have to be paid attention to, don't have to be listened to, and don't have to be trusted. You may go through the rest of your life with a feeling like you're not fully there. Okay. Work on accepting that, right? And here's the thing. Once you accept that that's the way that you might feel, I bet that gets easier to deal with and it won't be so bothersome anymore. But I'm going to bet that's not what you're doing. I'm going to throw some money on the idea that you are trying to find that feeling that you think you are supposed to have, and you're never quite achieving it. And guess what you're never going to do with OCD? You're never going to quite scratch the itch. You're never going to quite feel the feeling that you think you're supposed to be feeling, because no one with OCD ever actually achieves something like that. I still have not met somebody who had OCD who did enough research or did enough, calmness and meditation or whatever else they might have done, and at the end of it said, I finally achieved it. I finally gave everything that OCD wanted, and then OCD said, thank you. I will go now. You have given me all that I need. I really appreciate it. So no one's going to give you what you want. There's no ability to relate to situations appropriately enough. There's no baseline calmness and peace that will achieve enough of anything that OCD would ever tell you that you need to have. There will always be more to have, and you will never quite get everything. So you can keep searching for something and never find it, or you can accept where you're at, and I bet that it gets easier over time once you do that. T says, can OCD cause hallucinations? I have constant thoughts that I've dropped my phone or wallet when out in public. My mind then comes up with all these scenarios of identity theft and harm being done to my family. These thoughts continue throughout the day. They even happen when I'm holding my phone or wallet in my hands. These aren't really hallucinations. These are doubts, right? These are extreme doubts that you're experiencing. And we see this all the time with people in OCD. I've seen people staring underneath their car for hours to see if there's a dead body under it, even though they don't see one, but they fear, well, what if I'm missing it and I just don't know it? I've seen people stare again at light switches or bed sheets after seeing some static electricity, fearing that there's an invisible fire and looking for signs of an invisible fire that are going on. So here's what I want for you, T, to work on this idea that, yeah, you know what, your identity could get stolen. It is possible. In fact, I'm at a point now where I think I get at least once every 6 months something in the mail that says, we had a breach at so-and-so company and some of your identity was leaked out into the public. I'm like, okay, so you know what I do? I take the free credit monitoring and I go with it, and then I live my life. And I don't think much about it unless I get an alert about something. Um, you know, here's the thing that you can consider doing. T is delaying going to look to see if you dropped your wallet or your phone. Right? You could go out purposely without your wallet or phone and allow yourself just to learn how it is to live without those things. Right? You could even, I've done response cost with people. Every time you check your phone, you have to put a nickel in a piggy bank. And at the end of the week, all those nickels will get forwarded to the opposite political party for which you will be voting for in the next election. And you can decide, why continue to pay OCD, right? Because every compulsion is really a payment to obsessive compulsive disorder. So why continue to pay obsessive compulsive disorder? Let's not do that anymore. Let's not give it any more money. Let's not give it any more credit, right? Because it doesn't deserve it, because it hasn't brought anything good into your life. And if it hasn't brought anything good into your life, I always wonder why people do things if it hasn't brought anything good into their life. Oh, wait, I know, because it says, but what if the next time something really bad does happen? And therefore, wouldn't doing this compulsion actually bring good into your life because it would prevent something bad from happening in the future? So it would actually be a good thing to do the compulsion because it's going to stop something future bad from happening. Oh, yeah, let's do the compulsion. No, don't do it. It's a trick. It's a trick. It's a trick. Or as they say in Star Trek, it's a trap, right? And don't keep falling for the trap. Gil says, after I say something, my brain adds something to the end as an unwanted thought. I say, it'll be nice to swim tomorrow. And then adds the thought, so I can drown you. Is this OCD or worse? Geez, that's funny, Gil, because that's exactly what my brain does constantly. And the reason my brain does that constantly is because I've treated so many people who have OCD that I can't help but think that way. I would go with it. It could be OCD, and I wonder if you're doing any compulsions or anything as a way to neutralize it. I was in Paris last week, and it was fascinating because there's a lot of people who just sit on the ledge along the Seine River. So many debates on how to say that. And every person I passed, I had this thought about, I could totally launch you in the river. I could totally launch you in the river. I could totally launch you in the river. And literally, I probably thought that 1,000 times over the course of the week. It was just there. And I just kind of chuckled about it every time. It's like, and it did not interfere at all in my trip. And it did not stop me from doing anything whatsoever. But I just, that was there. And, it started off as one of those things where it popped in my head because I've treated so many people who have that. And then my first reaction was, oh, I'm probably going to think that a lot now. And of course, that's exactly what happened. I did. So it just became funny to me after a while. And then I would see people up ahead and I'd purposely think it. It's like, oh, there's one to push. And I can get 30 points for that one or something like that. And then over the course of the week, guess what? It just kind of faded. By the last day or two. It wasn't even happening anymore. And I didn't let it stop anything on my trip whatsoever, because I knew that I was just dealing with an intrusive thought. So intrusive thoughts are not owned by obsessive compulsive disorder. Everyone can have them. Stefan says, please explain pedophilic OCD more in detail and how it develops. How often does OCD themes morph into new ones? Is this something that I have to manage for the remainder of my life? OCD morphs a lot. In fact, we know that most people with OCD will probably have about 5 different themes over the course of their life. Why pedophilic OCD or any other kind of OCD? Well, they all develop based on this intrusive thought or image or urge about something that you find important. So if you think children are beautiful or wonderful or great or something like that, your OCD might say, maybe because you want to molest them, right? If you love your religion, then it will say, and maybe you actually love the opposite of your religion instead, the evil side of it. Oh, right. It could do that, right? So OCD develops out of doubt and uncertainty, and it's going to throw doubt and it's going to throw uncertainty into things. And is it something you'll have to manage for the rest of your life? Well, yeah. Just like people with alcoholism manage that the rest of their life, and people with diabetes manage that for the rest of their life, and people with other conditions manage that for the rest of their life, and people with, scoliosis manage that for the rest of their lives. You're not alone in having to manage something for the rest of your life. It is part of the human condition of having to do such a thing. And I believe that you have the ability to handle it. And that ability really does increase or come from doing great treatment. And what do we do with great treatment? Well, we do exposure and response prevention therapy. And what is that? Two things. We purposely expose people to the thoughts and the images and urges that OCD brings about to teach them that they can handle them. And then we have them not do compulsions. We have them stop doing those immediately relieving safety behaviors that they do. And we want them to learn that they can handle life without doing all the safety behaviors. Because if safety behaviors were really necessary, then my job would be to teach people how to do safety behaviors. That's what I would do. Jean Marie says, how do I eliminate meaning to numbers? For example, the number 3 means my mom will die. The number 4 means my pet's eyesight will be affected and become blind. 10 means some relating to brain aneurysm. And some numbers are good, like 5 and 6. But if you don't feel right and comfortable on those when doing your compulsions, you keep counting. You try to do tasks on the bad numbers, but the guilt you endure while or after doing compulsions makes you feel so horrible that you can think of such things. So, Jean Marie, your mom should be dead by now, I would think, because this is the 3rd of January. So the number 3 today will be killing your mother. And it's 36 minutes into our podcast or our webinar right now. And there's 93 people, it says, watching it. And it's 53 seconds after right now, too. So your mother should be very dead at this very second, actually, because we have 4 3s going on right now. Oh, and that's the number 4. Since there's 4 3s, it means your pet's eyesight will also be bad. So your mother is dead and your pet is blind, Jean Marie, out of the fact that we had 4 3s going on. And so there's the 4 and there's the 3s. I'm going to show 10 digits, right? There we go. There we go. Okay. So Jean, and now you and I are going to have an aneurysm because there's 10 digits right there. So, but Jean, I'm assuming you have all of your digits either on your fingers or your toes. So you should have had an aneurysm already due to the fact that you have that. And every October you should have an aneurysm too, since it is the 10th month and the 10th day of the 10th month. And I'm figuring 10, 10, 10 should have been the biggest aneurysm of your life, probably because of all the 10s that you had there. Or just from that example right now, what meaning do these numbers actually have? I mean, that's what I'm curious about, right? Do these actually have any meaning whatsoever? Because we've just demonstrated right now all the ways that I'm going to bet that these numbers have not harmed you whatsoever. So do they actually have meaning, or do you fear what if they have meaning? And I'm going to really go with, I bet you're afraid of what if they have meaning. Well, that we can work on, right? That's what we do with ERP. That's where we want you to purposely recognize that you can handle doing things. And that's where exposure and response prevention therapy is going to come into play. Lisa says, good evening. It's around your birthday month and also the anniversary of your dad's death, and your anxiety OCD gets pretty bad around this time, and ideas to just make the next few days earlier besides go to treatment. I deal with really bad contamination OCD, and it's like my brain is fighting against me extra hard right now. Thanks. Well, Lisa, here's the deal. OCD loves a stressor. So if your birthday's a stressor or the anniversary of your dad's death is a stressor, OCD is going to grab onto that and it's going to say, oh, Lisa, it's going to be really, really bad now this next week or two. Just so you know, so many more chances of being contaminated over these next couple of weeks. So Lisa, we're going to have to really dig in here and doing a lot more compulsions in order to keep ourselves safe. Now, Lisa, just like the previous discussion with the numbers, these days are no more or less contaminating or bad or awful or horrible or difficult than anything else. You've You've created that they are. You've decided that they are. Your OCD has said that they are. You've believed that they are. But then wouldn't they actually be difficult for all of us? I mean, if the death of your father and the anniversary of that and your birthday are harbingers of horrible things, are we all in the earth plunging into a couple of weeks of awful and horribleness and despair? I mean, I fear for the Olympians if that's the case. No one's going to win any medals whatsoever. Everyone will lose because of all the horrible things that could potentially be happening. Or, Lisa, you've been tricked by obsessive compulsive disorder into believing that this is the case, when the reality is that you have no proof of it whatsoever. And that's always been a fascinating thing for me with OCD, is the number of things that people will believe without proof that OCD tells them. But if I were to say something to them about something totally unrelated to their OCD, they would be like, well, that's dumb. You have no proof of that. I say, well, you have no proof of OCD either. So why believe that, but not the thing that I just said? I mean, how does OCD have a better leg up on something than I do, right? I'm a doctor. OCD is not a doctor. I'm a doctor. You should probably believe me much more than OCD if that's the case. And yet, does anyone ever do that? No. They just believe OCD more than they believe me, which frankly annoys me. I've got to tell you. Why would you believe OCD more than me? That really is frankly annoying. And I think you should believe your doctor far more than you believe OCD. Beth says, welcome back. Beth, good to see you again. I've missed everyone. It is good to be back here. Tammy says, currently dealing with a sensory motor OCD and existential OCD at the same time. It's making you worried for your sanity, and you're unsure what types of ERP would help. You're sleep deprived and jerk awake. Well, Tammy, I don't know, because it's hard to say what your sensory motor concerns are. Is it breathing or blinking or something of that nature? If it is, I would purposely blink wrong or breathe wrong. That would be great to do. And I've always loved existential OCD, where OCD says, since the time of the early Greeks, we have had these philosophical questions, and Tammy, we've gone now 4,000 years without answering these questions, and Tammy, we just can't have that anymore. So Tammy, you now have to become the greatest philosopher of the world and answer all of the existential questions of the world, because there must be an answer to them. And again, the lie of OCD is that, yes, there is an answer to absolutely everything, and there's an absolute answer and 100% guaranteed answer, and there's nothing other than that answer. And I just say, well, then that's bullshit, because if that's the case, we wouldn't have political parties. Everybody would just be of one belief system, and we wouldn't have multiple religions, because everybody would just be of one belief system there. And restaurants wouldn't even have menus, because we would just eat the food that they serve, because it was the perfect meal, and everybody in the world would eat that day, and because that's the day's perfect meal, right? Why have choices or anything of that nature? So, Tammy, I want you to work on embracing not having answers, not knowing everything, and allow yourself to become comfortable with that. Accept the uncertainty, live with the doubt. That's where we want to go. And, if you're looking for help, check out a therapist, right? You can check us out at nocd.com if you're interested, or International OCD Foundation, wherever you might want to go. But definitely there are people out there who can help you deal with some of these things. Desiree says, what's something I can do to cope with your anxiety in the moment without asking for your partner, friend, family, and God for reassurance? Well, I'll give you the very easy answer. Don't ask them for reassurance. That's the easiest thing that you can do. And number two, if you do ask them for reassurance, tell them all to do a couple of things. Number one, to give you the answer that you don't want to hear. Or to number two, to create a worry book in your home. And if you ask them a question more than once, they go to the book, they write down the question, they write down the answer. And anytime you ask that question ever again, they say, guess what, Desiree? That's in the book. We're not talking about it anymore. Okay? And that's the kind of stuff that you can do to help break the habit of all of this different reassurance seeking that you're doing. Is cannabis use bad for OCD? There's a lot of research being done on that right now. I haven't seen that there's any positives for it, so I don't know yet if there's anything bad about it, but I still haven't seen that it has been helpful as a cure for anything. Curious Cat says, love your work. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. You've been doing self-ERP cold turkey, and at this point, the major and biggest components of OCD were eliminated, but you still have these mini compulsions that brain is just on auto mode. Any tips? Yes. So whatever it is that the mini compulsions are, I want you to overcorrect them, right? If you find yourself doing a mini compulsion, I want you to undo it and then undo it again and then undo it again and then undo it again and undo it again until it's so annoying, and then go about your day. And if you do another one, go undo it again and undo it again and undo it again and undo it again and undo it again. And just keep doing that. And that should eventually, I think, help to eliminate that. Jazzy J, hello. Thank you for hosting these sessions. You're welcome. Our question is, what are some coping techniques that I would recommend that work together with ERP to help alleviate OCD symptoms? I don't teach coping techniques. ERP is really what you want to do. If you're looking for coping techniques, the problem is that those can become distractions, right? So I don't teach diaphragmatic breathing or muscle relaxation or things like that to do during ERP. If you want to do them outside of ERP, that's fine. If you want to do journaling, if you want to do meditation, if you want to do diaphragmatic breathing, if you want to do muscle relaxation, you want to do any of those things, totally okay. Have no issues with that whatsoever. Just don't do them during ERP, right? And if you're having trouble doing ERP, take it down a notch, go lower level, work your way up a little bit more, make that hierarchy more gradual if that's what you need to do. You don't have to, jump 3 stairs every new item that you do. Okay, take it easy. Let's see. I find it hard to do response prevention messages when I'm sleepy or drowsy. Is there something I should do at night when I'm ruminating and drowsy? I have people do a loop tape sometimes, so that might be something that you do, and you can just put it on a loop tape. Let's see. All right. Love is 515. I feel like I'm not meant to ever completely get over this, and your brain tells me that, and you don't feel it's OCD saying it. Well, you may not feel that it's OCD saying it, but I'm going to bet that it probably is, or the corresponding potential depression that a lot of people experience with it as well, too. I don't know what you mean by completely getting over this. If completely getting over this means that you're never going to have an intrusive thought, image, or urge, well, that's just not possible because you're a human. I mean, I don't have OCD and I have intrusive thoughts and images and urges daily, hourly, minutely sometimes. I mean, I always have them. Like I just said, I spent a week in Paris and just thought about pushing thousands of people over ledges, while I was there. So if that's what you mean by completely getting over it, it's a horrible definition of what a cure looks like. I don't talk about a cure for OCD. That's why I always do that. I don't talk about a cure for OCD. What I talk about is I'm going to learn how to live with OCD. I'm not going to let it interfere with my life anymore. I will never get over my tinnitus. I always hear a sound that nobody else is hearing. I'm wondering, how can I function and survive with that? Because I'm never going to get over it. We are not going to, I believe, and I have no hope for this whatsoever. I am resigned to the fact that I have tinnitus because I have no hope for the fact that we're going to find a cure in my lifetime for tinnitus. We're just not advanced enough yet in figuring out what to do with it. So guess what? Love is 515. I'm never going to get over a condition that I have. Ever, ever, ever. I'm going to die with this. And you know what? I'm okay with that. That is totally fine. I accept it. And you know why I feel good? Because I'm not fighting it. I'm accepting it. You can accept whatever it is that pops into your head, be it a thought, an image, an urge, or even a sound like I have. We could get in debates if you wanted to, but it would be interesting. I would contend that I'd like to trade you. I'll take your intrusive thoughts. You can have the sound, right? You can hear this for the rest of your life. Imagine that 24/7, never, ever, 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 ever stopping. I'll give it to you. You can have it. I'll take the thoughts. Maybe because I know how to treat the thoughts and the images and urges, and that's what I've done for a living. That's why I'll take them, because to me, I know what to do exactly with them. You know what I can't do a darn thing about, no matter what? That sound. It's always there. So what have I had to do? I've had to do exactly what I teach everybody else with OCD. Because guess what? I tricked you a little. Your thoughts or your images or urges are always there too. There's a little trickiness on my part. I apply everything to myself that I ask you to do as well. To live with uncertainty, to be with the doubt, to allow for the discomfort, and to learn that I can handle it. That is what I want for you too. Is Lexapro helpful for OCD? It can be. SSRIs can be. SNRIs can be. Tricyclics can be too. We know that clomipramine is probably still the best drug for OCD, but has some more side effects potentially because it is a tricyclic versus a selective, only one neurotransmitter focused. So. Mario says, my shower used to take an hour. Now it's taking an hour and 30 minutes. Mario, it's time to get with a therapist to work on decreasing those compulsions so that you don't see it increase more. Jack says, I have an intense fear of losing myself, more specifically feeling detached from myself, not being able to think the thoughts that my normal self would think. And Jack, I'm going to bet you this, the more that you test yourself on your thoughts to see, am I thinking these thoughts? Am I detached from myself? The more you're actually feeling detached. So, you know what, Jack? The more you check, the worse you feel. That's just how it goes. That's the way that it is. The more you check, the worse you feel. It isn't about checking more to feel better. It is about actually doing less. That's what you want to do. You want to do less, Jack, not more. More is not good in this situation. You want to do less. Brian says, what are response prevention messages? Those are messages that you can allow yourself to have to live with doubt and uncertainty. So things like maybe, maybe not. I never say I'll be fine or everything will be okay. I've said I'm going to learn how to handle that and be with it. Right? Those kinds of things. I'm going to accept the doubt and the uncertainty. Those kinds of things are what you want to do. Blake says, hi, Doc. My obsession switched between end of the world scenarios and offending God. Could you give me some ERP tips? Well, we don't want to purposely do something that you think would be offending God, but your OCD will tell you that you are, right? I mean, I don't ask people to go do blasphemous things. I just ask people to live with the things that are in their head already, that they're already dealing with. So Jack, I'm sorry, Blake, what I want you to do is just allow for those thoughts to be there without doing compulsions. That's what I want. And recognize that you can handle that, right? I'll bet you this. If you have a God who's all-knowing and all-powerful, that God knows what OCD is and knows that this is the treatment. So I'm going to ask you, Blake, just to take my advice, allow for those to be there, do no compulsions, and allow yourself to be better because of that. Jack says, it's like an intense fear of growing crazy or losing my intellectual capabilities. This is driving you crazy. That intense fear of losing yourself. Yeah, Jack, I don't know anyone who's ever lost themselves. If anyone on here has ever actually lost themselves and then found themselves again, if you could let us know, that would be good. But to me, that's an OCD concept that I could actually lose myself, right? Because I don't know anybody who's ever done that. Mm-hmm. F says, I didn't end up traveling with my family. OCD took over the brain. F, well, if there's any chance of getting to where your family is and continuing that traveling, I would want you to do that, right? Allow that to be there. Any correlation between chronic sleep apnea and OCD? I mean, it could be in the sense that if you don't sleep as well, that could be a stressor. We know that lack of sleep could lead to more stress, more anxiety, more depression. So that might be something that you want to work on. Lexi says, my compulsion is to document. I have major fears and issues in social situations where I feel the need and compulsion to record and document and reassure yourself. How do I alleviate that? Go into situations without a phone or without a pencil or a pen or paper or something like that, and purposely go do things without any chance of actually documenting something whatsoever. That's where I would start, and allow yourself to learn that you could handle that. What's FOMO? Fear of missing out is FOMO. F. Desiree says, I struggle with navigating a new relationship. I get scared that he's bad or could turn bad. Is there a tip for how to deal with a new relationship when you have OCD? Recognize that OCD is out to wreck everything good and wonderful in your life, right? Now here's the thing. He could turn bad. He could be bad. It is possible, right? I'm not going to say that he's not. I'm just saying that OCD tells you definitely or high probability. And what I'd like you to do is just not listen to anything that OCD says, because if OCD was a great source of truth, this whole hour would be, hey, Desiree, I'm noticing that you're not paying enough attention to your obsessive compulsive disorder. And I think your biggest mistake, Desiree, is you're not doing enough compulsion. So Desiree, what I'd really love you to do is do whatever OCD wants and then see how much your life gets better. I mean, that's not the show though, is it? No, it's something totally opposite from that. It's the absolute opposite of that. It is, let's not listen to obsessive compulsive disorder. Let's not do what it wants us to do. And let's allow ourselves to learn that, hey, we can handle it, right? We do not need to do anything that OCD wants us to do. I'm going to see too if anybody said that they found that they were able to, we got a lot of no's there. Nope. Okay. I'm just wondering if there's any yes. No. So a lot of no's there. So any, interesting. None of you think that my idea of staying single for the rest of my life is a great idea. And many of you are saying that that would be foolish. Interesting. So I'm just curious about this. If you're not telling me to follow the advice that if I had OCD, that it would tell me, you're basically saying if I had OCD, you would want me to not follow the advice of OCD, which I find, thank you, first of all, means you're all could be great therapists. So consider it as careers maybe for everybody. But on the second hand, I'm going to ask you a very simple question. Why not apply that to yourself? Why give that advice to someone else, but think that advice is not good enough for you? Unless you hold on to a belief that I call specialness, which is the rules of the world apply to me differently than they do to everybody else. Right? So before we leave tonight, I'm going to give you a little homework. Tomorrow, 4th of July, holiday. Hope it's great for everybody. Tomorrow, I want you to treat yourself as if you were your very best friend in the entire world. Tomorrow, anytime you do anything well, say to yourself, I rock. That was totally awesome. Nice job. Tomorrow, anytime anything goes bad or wrong, say to yourself, who cares? Nobody noticed. It's no big deal whatsoever. And see how it feels for the end of the day. You don't have to believe it, but I want you to do it. On Friday, I want you to do the opposite. On Friday, I want you to treat everybody you know like you normally treat yourself. On Friday, anytime anybody you know does anything wrong, go up to them and say, hey, stupid, I can't believe you did that. You are a moron. You should probably die. And anytime anything goes well, say to yourself, it was luck. It's not like I deserve that or anything. And now that something good happened, something bad is bound to happen. And see on Friday if you will like yourself or if anyone in the world will ever speak to you ever again. The answer would probably be no. That's specialness. I'm going to ask all of you to consider this. How are you motivating yourselves to be better? Are you building yourself up or are you putting yourself down? I'm going to bet the vast majority of you putting yourselves down and reminding yourselves of things that went bad or mistakes that have been made or something like that. And that's where we got to change it. Check us out at nocd.com, an online platform for the treatment of OCD. If you're looking for help with OCD or hoarding or BFRBs or tics, we'd love to work with you. nocd.com, 15-minute free call with our care team. We are there for you. We'll be back again next week. And I will be, yes, because I'm off of the vacation time now. So thanks, everybody. Talk to you soon. Have a good one. Happy to have you here as always. I can see sun above my head now. It shines so bright, it shines so bright. Yeah.